It should be making another draft. No, that's not it. Yes, it's a donotgod.com video production. Yes, let's get it right. Turtle. Anyway, okay, so there's another one of these podcasts with another person, bizarrely calls himself anti-natalist, but I don't even understand in what context that's even a reasonable description of their philosophies. Frankly, it doesn't make much sense to me. Anyway, I'll play, very right from the start, there are axioms or argumentations or pieces of information that are so broken, so catastrophically incorrect, they're just saying, how can you argue for something with such, by making statements that are just so overtly incorrect? It's like somebody saying to somebody, we shouldn't drive automobiles because they cost $7 million a year to operate. No, they don't. I mean, they cost you a few thousand, but no, it's not $7 million. I mean, it's such an exaggeration, such an inaccurate statement, so preposterously wrong. And you're just saying, how can you found an argument on information that's just plainly wrong? So as a freebie, I want to throw in here a little bit of politics, because this comes down to what people think a democracy is capable of and blah, 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 blah. But two-party systems, okay, have to operate on the fact that there's humans, okay, as individuals. But as individuals, they have collective philosophy like religion or greed or vegan. And so they fall into different, they can jump from different classes, different issues can be their priority for a given year, being against or pro-abortion, being this or that. And these groups are voters, and you could say there's 30 million people that believe this and 50 million people believe that. It's like cigarette smokers were, might still be 25 million people, and they have a certain interest. And a party can either say, well, we want those voters, we'll collect them by saying something pro-smoking or some other subject to try to get those voters. But if they have other interests that they're more, is more important, then some other class of sub thing will be important to them. But the important thing is that they never want to give away, if they're getting half of these voters, if there's 10 voters, there's, 5 that are voting Republican, 5 voting Democrat. Neither party wants to give up either that 5%, because 5% is whatever, 10 million votes, and they just don't want, 4 million votes, and they don't want to give up 5 million actually, and they want to give that up. They don't want to lose that many votes in the next election, because most of the elections end up being, 42, 48, 40, it's that kind of thing. They're always kind of close in terms of percentages. So they can't afford to lose a block. And so any subject, like a group of public employees, if they can get their numbers high enough, both parties will placate them, because they can't lose half of those voters. It's too many voters to lose. So they both have to feed them something. So either the parties sort of both feed or both don't feed a certain ideological thing. So obviously the Republicans feed the religious kooks because they want to get most of those votes. Now the trick is a lot of religious kooks are poor, and so the Democrats will feed them some welfare to try to get more of those people to go with them. So it's just but that's all it is. It's a battle for these percentages. And as soon as you can get your subject, as soon as you can get 4 or 8 million people, right, to really believe in your cause, to really be hard vegans and being, hard atheist or hard something, all of a sudden that's that margin. That's the margin that makes the difference in an election. It's probably the fair number to say is the 10 million number, because then it becomes that half thing. The other party doesn't want to give up 5 million voters. Okay, if you get me, if we assume half the vegans are Republican, half the vegans are Democrat, which they won't be, but anyway. But the point is the party's going to want to keep those votes. They're going to feed that voting bloc. They're going to make concessions to them. And that's what pushes the democracy one way or another. So if people, right now 50% of the people don't have kids. 50%. there's every reason to believe that very soon, if we had a referendum, for example, on child subsidies for people to have children, there's every realistic possibility that a bill that said something like women who don't have children get more welfare, some kind of bill that's positive, not punitive, would have every chance of being voted for, okay, by people, because they want a solution to the problem. They don't want these parties that are just saying give them nothing or give them too much. They want a rational answer that actually creates incentives for poor people to quit having kids they can't raise properly. So there's lots of these problems in the world that aren't getting solved because any of these parties have a constituency that's going to get them any votes on that subject. It's a subject they just shut up on because they can't win. They can't get the right numbers by picking a side. And that's all this politics thing is about. And it's really just about having enough people in your organization to basically force the parties to give you a contract. Go to both parties and say, what will you give me? And whatever party gives you the best deal, you say, okay, look, everybody, I know you don't like them, but vote for them because they've given us what we want. They've given us the deal where we're going to get, real action on, welfare or whatever the subject is. And that's all it takes. So you don't even need to get to 52% of the population to get your policy respected. You just have to get in the tens of millions, and you're on your way. As long as you're passionate, as long as you're focused on that one subject, you can bend the democracy any way you wish. Because both parties are going to want to make a deal. Just explaining.
How would you self-describe as a soft anti-natalist?
I knew. I said to myself, get the volume right before you start the video, dumbass. Obviously didn't accomplish my task. Alright. That should be enough. Leave us hope.
I believe you used those words before. Yes, a distinction between soft and hard. Soft sounds somehow weak-minded, but yeah.
Weak in all respects, yes. Limp anti-natalism.
My problem with hard extinctionist anti-natalism is sadly
it gets the job done and it's complete and it actually does the prevention thing. You don't really prevent something by maintaining it. Preventing and maintaining are not the same kind of word at all. They just don't have anything to do with each other. Realistically, prevention isn't like reduce. It's not the same kind of word at all. I'm going to prevent the spread of smallpox by reducing its spread. No, nobody could get away with that crap. So yes, first you ought to understand what vocabulary words mean.
I just don't see how it's going to work. It's the very nature of selection pressure.
Okay, so this is one of these guys who thinks we breed our philosophy, which is just absolutely incorrect. What there is a correlation between is poverty and ignorance. There's a clear, that's in the world. We see it right now, today, everywhere in the world. Poverty means stupid. Okay, it just does. Just that correlation is like, it's a clearly sensible profiling to recognize that yes, there's only a 2 maybe in 100 chance that a poor person will go to college, a poor child. That's a worldwide real statistic. Not a fake one, not phony, not baloney. That's the real world. Okay, so there's a huge correlation between poverty and ignorance, and then there's another huge correlation between intelligence and how many kids you have. So there you go. That's the only stuff factored in here. Those are the only ingredients you're allowed to put in this bowl because they're the only relevant ones. There is no genetic compulsion to have children that somehow we breed it selectively, that somehow two really horny breeders mix together and their breeding compulsion is genetic. Okay, it isn't part of their culture, it isn't part of something they learned. No, they're somehow genetically incapable of not using condoms. There's no such thing as the gene, the I can't wear a condom gene. Okay, that doesn't exist anywhere. The I can't take a birth control pill gene. No, there's no such gene. So this is just such nonsense to premise an argument on. As I've already pointed out, all intelligent civilizations are in declining population in terms of their resident population. The only thing maintaining their population or increasing their population is the importation of population. So clearly all the civilized nations, without even believing in anti-natalist, have already decided to go extinct. And the simple, again, this is just simple. This is 2 + 2 mathematics. I'm sorry. These lines are so obviously easy to follow. Okay, if you go behind, below this 2.2 population increase, right, that maintains your population, you go below that, the line goes this way. Okay, and there's absolutely no reason why you think, well, as the population declines, people all of a sudden want to have more kids. No, there's every reason to believe as population declines, there's less chaos in your civilization, less nonsense, and people are even more educated and even less likely to have more kids. So the line ends up going like this. It even crashes even faster to extinction. It'll get there even sooner. It'll straighten the line rather than make the line go back up again. So let's understand, the line for all the civilized nations is already going to extinction. That's where it's going. The only people keeping this line from going right down to extinction is the fact that we import the crazy line of the ignorant. The poor nations, Islam, all of that crap does this to the line. Anywhere where anybody's smart, it goes like this to the line. That's the simple ABCs of this subject. That's population, and that's the reality in the world. And this notion that it's impossible for this line to go down. No, it's not even close to impossible. It was already doing it until, the liberals decided to love the poor people because they vote for them and decided to say, well, let's give poor people everything. Let's bribe them. Let's allow the illegals to even vote. Let's give them every privilege possible because they'll vote for them. See? Bullshit. So in spite of the fact that 70% or 75% of the population says no, the idiotic, moronic liberals are saying, we're going to say yes to that because we can get some votes out of it. So they're sacrificing all principle for this purpose of stealing a few votes because they don't want a fair fight. And it's really humiliating. As a liberal, I find it very humiliating. The liberals are so stupid.
That if we're going to get rid of suffering, I think we're going to have to tackle its biological genetic roots. So simply choose.
So again, this genetic root, we have, you can't stop it by the simple, it's just such a false premise. The easiest way to stop it is to stop ignorance, and that makes condoms, and that makes the problem solved. People have already, like I said, it's so inane. They're doing the right thing. They're already becoming vegan for health reasons. I don't even have to argue the argument from you're being cruel. I don't even have to add it, okay? Because they're already doing it for some other reason. And clearly for some rational reason, like, I don't want to be a nursemaid to a child for the rest of my life. I don't want to be glued to this thing and feel obligated to this thing. I don't want the jeopardy. I see how it all goes wrong with so many people, and it just ruins their lives, and their kid steals all their money, and all kinds of things happen. I don't want to step there. I have no personal interest. It's not to my advantage. Lots of people figure that out. If they sit here on Earth long enough, they figure out I don't need the liabilities. I don't need the risk. I don't need my boat sunk, okay, by carrying this burden that can, capsize me.
Choosing not to have children and encouraging others to do likewise, even though I do it. Nonetheless, in some sense, what one is doing, one is creating selection, intensifying selection pressure again.
So there absolutely is no selection pressure for, again, I can't wear a condom. That's not a genetic feature. I can't possibly understand that having babies is risky, complicated. It's put you in all kinds of moral and ethical jeopardy. There's no gene that prevents you from seeing that. Absolutely not. And all you have to do is have ABC intelligence to get some of this stuff right. I mean, this guy's supposed to be, reasonably intelligent. He can't even get this simple curve right. Somehow he thinks the curve has to go this way. there's no logic explaining why does it have to go that way. That's not how evolution works. It doesn't. You don't evolve. You don't. Our philosophy, my philosophy of being an anti-natalist, being a liberal, being a lot of things, it's not in my spermatozoa anywhere. It's not in there anywhere.
It's any predisposition not to have kids. And yes, the very nature of selection pressure is such that any predisposition to go forth and multiply is going to be heavily selected for. I mean, in spite of...
So again, we already know that these are philosophical decisions. They have nothing to do with biology. The anti-natalists are horny. They want to have sex. They want to do all this stuff. And again, there's plenty of people who have sex all the time, and they don't have to connect it to procreation in any way. They understand I'm not trying to have a baby. So this has nothing to do with affecting any kind of genetics that could have anything to do with this subject whatsoever. There's just, since the day the condom was invented, all of this idea that you're genetically evolving stopped.
The fact that, yes, most people in the course of a lifetime do sometimes undergo terrible suffering. Nonetheless, most people are determined to breed.
So again, you can say most people, but it's very marginally most people. So it's not dramatically most people. It's exactly moving in the opposite direction. It's progressively, the needle is moving in the opposite direction. Decade by decade by decade, it's moving in the right direction. So he's talking like it can't happen, and we're watching the building falling down right in front of our faces. As it's falling, you say, that building can't fall down. It's already halfway down. What are you talking about? It can't fall down.
Just people tend to outbreed atheists and secular folk by a landslide. And so, yes, back to your...
So again, this is just, he has no data to defend any of this stuff. It's either intelligence or no intelligence, and that's all there really is. And we know that the intelligence isn't genetic, it's cultural. So it just has to do with what you expose a child to. And again, none of these philosophical ideas require you to do advanced calculus. None of them require you to do some complex conceptual engineering of concepts. They're really rudimentary philosophical understandings. It really just has to do with, can you possibly understand what a fable is versus do you understand that there's a real world, making some distinctions between those two. But you don't need much intelligence, much above, 65 IQ. And these concepts like, it's not a good idea to do the same stupid thing over and over again, like walk into a tree. Don't walk into a tree over and over again. It just doesn't take much intelligence to figure out, hey, I understand that's stupid.
Question. I describe myself as a soft anti-natalist. I don't think one is ethically entitled to bring more suffering into the world. Nonetheless, I think the future belongs to fanatical life lovers.
Okay, so again, he thinks it based on every trend is in exactly the opposite direction. So he says it in spite of all the evidence that the trend is exactly in the opposite direction. That, in a sense, it would already have been achieved in all the civilized nations if it wasn't for the importation of the stupid ideology. If they didn't pollute their country with dumbasses, they wouldn't have their intelligence diminished. Duh.
And although I do think human extinction is going to happen, I don't see this as happening via universal childlessness, which is sociologically unrealistic. But
okay, it's not sociologically unrealistic. Like say, 50% of the people are already choosing to remain single and childless. So he's chosen it. The moderator's probably chosen. I chose, even without knowing I had any moral imperative not to have children. Guess what? I wouldn't have had them, even without even contemplating the ethical jeopardy, the risk I'm taking, the dice rolling risk. Even without even contemplating that, I had no interest. I don't need a problem. I need solutions, and children don't solve any problems. I'm sorry, unless you're incredibly incapable of finding something better to do, like you just don't have any imagination at all, like you can't even imagine making some money and then buying an island and populating with it a bunch of bikini girls and shit. I mean, if you have no imagination, well, then maybe having a kid can make sense. But you really have to have virtually no capacity to use your brain to imagine different scenarios. You know.
They're essentially rewriting our genetic source code, and we're already seeing the first, very controversially, designer babies in China. Now, the fellow in question was almost certainly trying to do it to
right, but we see that most of the Chinese don't want one of those babies, right? So again, you keep making this argument as if there's this huge, overwhelming compulsion to have babies when the whole thing rides on a terribly small little margin of one child, going from 3 to 2. Not complicated at all. Little tiny difference. So we're barely increasing population. We're not like increasing population at preposterous numbers. Women aren't having 10 kids. This isn't 4,000 years ago.
Not to prevent HIV, which was the nominal pretext for what he was doing, but essentially to create intelligent babies, because non-human animals who have the particular mutation in question he was in.
All right, so more of this genetic intelligence. Again, you don't need any high functioning like James Bondian where you can image memory, movie memories. You don't need a huge capacity, a whole big filing cabinet full of skills. Long, stretchy arms. Your brain doesn't have to be highly functional for you to get these simple arguments. So again, anti-natalism is anything you have to be insanely smart to figure out.
Engineering are actually smarter, improved cognition, memory compared to mice that lack the mutation.
All right, so this guy is a guy advocating for intelligence, probably from some notion that he's one of these superior beings already. And that he wants to have this thing called transhuman enhanced intelligence. To do what? What are you going to do with it? What about life is that complicated? You're going to use your transhuman, super intelligence to seduce girls? You're going to take it to the bar, so you can trick women and so you can get into their pants. It doesn't really sound like maybe it doesn't go that way, but you get the point, right? I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to use your superhuman intelligence to I'm going to make a super special double cupcake. Yummy, yummy. I mean, this is just so silly that we need anything. Like there's anything really good going to be ever accomplished, even if we could make a supercomputer. What the fuck is it going to really do? I would argue absolutely nothing. It's just going to be a super wanker.
This wasn't innocent. He knew what he was doing. But rather than focusing on boosting intelligence, which is all very well and much harder, I think we should be. So
again, this doesn't have anything to do with boosting intelligence. It just has to do with getting people off the heroin of religion. Just has to do with getting them disengaging them from their the little the breastfeeding they did at Jesus's teat. Getting them away from this notion that fairy tales are the reality. The reality is that turtle. The reality is that there's brains with connected sense organs crawling on this earth, and they're getting rewarded and punished through a sensation mechanism. And some of them are enduring an awful lot of punishment, and it's cruel and stupid.
If you have two people who are determined to have kids, as most people are, essentially...
So again, most by a tiny margin,
I think as an obligation to load the genetic dice in their favour. And we already know that it's possible with even a handful of genetic tweaks to radically reduce the burden of suffering in individuals and indeed throughout the living world.
Okay, so even that's silly talk, right? There's plenty of very successful people who commit suicide. I don't know, this idea that somehow this game is so improved, we just have to be highly intelligent, and then the game will be so much more fun. It's like saying hopscotch is more fun the more intelligent you are, or tic-tac-toe is more fun the more intelligent you are. No, it isn't. it just gets dumber and dumber and more mundane and more tasteless and more empty. The idea that intelligent people don't realize the reoccurrence problem. Same old, same old, same old, same old. They were just running the same maze, and it has all these footprints in it. The track is just so dented with, it's like a Grand Canyon of track. You can just see how you just, okay, this is the fucking routine. Zig, zag. Oh, that was fun.
So do you feel that these are, I feel like I'm in alignment with you, and I think Benatar mentioned...
Right, so again, yes, Benatar also is under some delusion, again, that there's any evidence that it's impossible for a population of human beings to go into declining population. It can't possibly happen. Yet it's happening right now in Japan, because they're not importing a whole bunch of people. And what's your counter argument? Do you have anything like a counter argument to this fact that it's already taken place? There's already human populations that proved we will voluntarily step right into extinction, the extinction curve. And there's absolutely no reason why, like again, as population reduces, that there would be any reason why they would change their opinion. Babies will always be expensive. Babies will always be a burden. Those things are never going to change. Why would people choose to do it?
This too. He doesn't believe that it's going to be a universal thing for antinatalism, but for the select few that happen to not breed.
And again, that's before anyone has even heard these arguments. They don't even know what an antinatalist is. They don't even know, in a sense, they haven't even heard vegan arguments a lot of the world. I mean, when I grew up, you saw a vegan now and then, they would call it was like somebody having a disease. It wasn't even like a concept. Like some sort of just rational choice. It's like they must have some kind of disease, like they can't go out in the sunlight because they have some kind of skin disorder or something. And vegans were like, oh, they got to be sick people. There's something wrong with them. So this isn't even a philosophy yet, and it's already winning. I mean, it's that funny, right? I mean, we're already winning, and we haven't put one penny into the campaign.
This is a good thing, and isn't this I don't know, is it not counterproductive to antinatalism to advocate for it if it helps the selection pressure for the life lovers?
So that's the hilarious. So this guy actually believes that we breed our philosophy, that somehow my parents had some sort of anti-natalist gene running through their blood, and that's why I became an anti-natalist, is because they had they had a little recessive genetic don't have kids gene, even though there's absolutely no evidence. I mean, they're here from the same process. Breeders made them, and breeders made them, and breeders made them. It is true that breeders will always will breed. Whoever's going to exist, they have to pop out of breeders. That's a truth, but it has nothing to do with genetics anymore. Again, the invention of the condom completely changed the game. We're not really doing this evolving thing. You see any populations on Earth doing any specialty evolving? No, we're just turning into mutts. Okay, we're not turning into pedigrees. We're turning into mutts. Those are the facts. And we're philosophical mutts. There's no ideology built into our genetics. These people really, I guess, believe that love of Islam is bred right into the Arab blood. And that you could argue that Africans are voodooists or something. They're just genetically voodooists. This is silly.
Well, this is a tension. As I said, personally, I just don't see any way to justify bringing more suffering and things to the world. It's the same, but it's.
But I see no way to ever prevent it or eliminate it or stop it, because there's no way this line that's going straight down could ever go straight down. See, I mean, the line's going straight down. It is there. It's already, we've done it. We've already demonstrated that it can be done, but it can never go down. I mean, it's like a Monty Python sketch. I mean, this is just, and this is their foundational argument to insult other people and say you're being foolish. Or, like he's saying, he's trying to imply that somehow it is counterproductive not to tell people to breed their philosophy. You must breed because you must program your children to fight the other programmed children. when every evidence is the other programmed children are believing what I believe. That's what's happening. They're choosing to do exactly what I did, not have kids. They're already doing the right thing. Why do I need to compete with them? I'm winning. They're doing the same thing I'm doing. We're already winning.
It's not a global solution. I think antinatalists in general provide a very valuable service in the sense that they remind prospective or would-be prospective parents just, what a momentous decision they're taking and how
they don't remind them, obviously. Obviously, they didn't forget and they have to be reminded. So, no, they inform them. So, again, these are sort of, I mean, I don't want to nitpick on the verbiage, but these are sort of important concepts. The people don't need reminding. They don't need badgering. They don't need any of that. All they need is exposure. All you need is exposure to a high school education before you start producing a girl. All a girl needs in the third world to go from having 5 kids to having 2 kids on average is a high school education. That's all. Just an opportunity. Don't have kids when you're 13. And the numbers you'll have in your life go down, 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 and down. Just those 3 or 4 years is all that matters. 13 to 18. If you can, in those 5 years, if you can stop them from having kids, you've won the war. So that's all this is about: is ignorant breeding, colossally ignorant breeding, immature breeding. If you can stop people from breeding when they're not even ready to have sex, frankly. With partners in any kind of relationship that could be called rational, we already know that's the game. The game is over. If we just stop little girls from essentially being raped or molested, we've won.
They are, in some sense, knowingly creating more suffering. They won't conceive of it for the most part like that, but in that sense, I think the anti-natalist movement is valuable. But when anti-natalism shades into human extinctionism, or sort of Benatarianism, then it's like...
Benatarianism. So just a minute ago they were saying, we like Benatar's futility argument. And now he's calling it some kind of Benatarianism. What the hell is that? Oh, you mean the asymmetry? What the hell is Benatarianism besides everybody knowing it's a bad idea to have kids? And the only difference is that he, unlike me, I would pass laws against rape. I wouldn't just say I'm not a rapist. I don't walk around saying, well, if I stop eating meat, all the animals are rescued. I don't have that misunderstanding. I kind of know that if I really want to rescue them, I have to save them from the perpetrators. I can't pretend I was the only perpetrator. Oh, the problem is solved because I stopped farting. There's no more farting. It's a stupid argument. You have to oppose it with something. And yes, the best something is an argument, but it's very unrealistic to think that, yes, you're going to win all the arguments with every single moron on earth. So we have lots of laws. Why do we have the laws? Because you can't win the argument. You can't explain to everybody that it's wrong to murder. Not everybody can understand. Okay, so you have to have laws against it. You have to beating your wife and all these other things. We have to have laws against it because some morons are just too fucking stupid. That's all. Anti-natalists aren't saying we want any more law than any other law against drunk driving or anything else. We just want responsible law to mitigate against retarded behavior. We want to discourage retards from behaving badly. Period. Nothing more. And you want to make us out to some sort of monster, some kind of Nazi-esque horrible force that's going to be so draconian evil. Why are you doing that? Why are you lying about us? Liar. What's your incentive? You're just faking it, right? You're just fake analists. You're fake analists. You're just playing a game here because you can't get any of these facts right. Any.
I said I have more problems. I mean, most transhumanists, though I myself as a transhumanist, are optimists worrying about existential risk. As you know, there are institutes for.
Oh yeah, they think you're going to make a good game to play. They are stupid enough first to think there is some sort of absolute good outside of orgasm, like some other mechanism is somehow free. When we even know that the orgasm isn't really free. You can't just all day. It just doesn't work. So we know that's not even free. You have to build up some tension. You have to put some water in the reservoir before you can pump any water out, until there's any water pressure. Your water barrel has to have, the fuller it is, the more pressure you get, the more it works. The less water, no pressure, no worky. But every good is just eliminating bad. That's the game you're playing. What do you want to have? The Special Olympics for your super transhuman intellectuals, and you'll sit there and play three-dimensional chess against each other, and and create more losers than winners. You'll do the same moronic things. You'll violate the Einstein rule. Doing the same thing over and over again is fucking retarded, and you'll step right into it and pretend, no, we've made the Special Olympic events, and they're really cool events. They're so much better because we're double skateboarding. We have 8 wheels on the skateboard because we're smart. No, you're fucking silly. You're silliest.
Mention of existential risk. Most people, as soon as they hear the word antinatalism, still switch off, which is
whatever that means. Well, I think if they hear transhumanism, they're pretty switch-offy too, because they're saying, "Oh, we're going to be transformers. Oh, how cool!" That always works out, right? Nothing glitches when that shit goes on, right? No problems whatsoever. And that solves all human conflict, right? As soon as we get really muscled up in our super cyborg machines, we're not going to be painting, we're not going to have colors, We're the Jets and we're the jerks and the whatevers, and you're not going to still be fighting over the same booty, right? You're going to have these huge competitions. Your little girl in a cage, and you're going to sit there in your little transformer suits and have a fight over the girl in a cage. I mean, fuck. This is so funny. It's ludicrously silly. This is a solution.
In a sense, I wear several hats: soft antinatalist, transhumanist, effective altruist.
Silly retard, bullshittist. What did Barnum say? A sucker's born every dayist.
But potentially, I think it's possible to work together, because even if one is, let's say, a hard extinctionist antinatalist, why would it be good if there weren't any sentient beings? Because no sentience means no suffering. But if one takes, the view of suffering,
right, and if you take the view that you can't ever really make a good game, there's no good game to play. All the games involve making a mess, cleaning up the mess. That's what the intelligent part is for, by the way, is cleaning up the messes, fixing things that are broken. So if we don't go into the china shop and we don't break anything, then we don't need any intelligence to fix it. That's the simple argument. So why would we ever say, well, let's go the transhumanist route, where we're better fixers, so then we can break more stuff? Why would we think that's rational? Because the process of breaking is bad anyway. Okay, so there's more than one bad here. Breaking it is bad. Not fixing it is another bad. You're only fixing one part of the bad by playing your transhuman game. You'll be very efficient at fixing it, but you still have to drop it. You still have to force it into the bad condition for some amount of time to ever do your transhuman miracle.
Focused ethics without being a hardline human extinctionist. It's possible to work with a broad coalition of other...
Not if you know what the word prevention means, and that it's better than attempting some fake idea of I'm going to invent the cure for the fact that goods are made out of removing bads. You can't cure that disease. The fact that good is made out of extracting the bads is just a fact. The fact that pleasure is made out of pulling thorns of negative out of you, and that it's just better never to stick the thorn in your skin. It's just better to never do it. Then you don't have to clean it up. Don't make a mess. Nothing to worry about. Of course, it's the superior philosophy. And likewise, of course, if you're saying that we can't possibly not go into the china shop and not break things, then of course transhumanism becomes reasonable. Yes, let's become more efficient at fixing things. But you obviously have no respect for the real argument, because there's absolutely no reason we can't close that door to the china shop. It's already trying, the wind is blowing it closed right in front of our eyes. So they have this false lie that they predicate their whole nonsense upside down view of right and wrong on.
Social groups. I mean, sort of 20, 30 years ago, we couldn't have this discussion, but technically speaking, now one could have a 100-year plan to phase out the Bible.
Right, and in all those years, the number was going the right way. The needle was falling exactly the way we want to. Yeah, a little boost at World War II in population, but otherwise, the decline was on its way. Condoms were doing their job. High school educations were doing their job. Okay, and the human race was figuring out how to drink with its pinky out, how to be civilized, how to understand that reckless and sloppy is not the way you do anything, and especially not the way you have kids. Of all the things you're really not allowed to do reckless and sloppy, raising a kid, like I said, I could put that on a ballot, just that statement. Should reckless and sloppy be the way to raise children? And I think probably 95% of people would say, at least, okay, of course not. Of course not. So the argument has already been won.
Of suffering to genetically reprogram the biosphere, one can actually point to specific genes. The one I most commonly use because it's convenient is SCN9A. Nonsense mutations, you have no capacity to experience pain, but that tends to be problematic, especially in males, because they take all kinds of risk. But SCN...
well, whatever. This whole you can't experience pain thing, it's called leprosy. I mean, so this isn't even complicated, right? I mean, lack of sensation is what leprosy causes. That's the disease. The disease doesn't deform a leper. A leper is deformed by the fact that they can't feel enough pain to stop scratching. There's nothing stopping them from going too deep. I mean, let's all get leprosy. That's their plan. Let's get leprosy and everything will be all right. I mean, it's really got... I'm sorry, but... this doesn't seem insanely stupid to anyone else.
I know is a kind of volume knob for pain, and yeah, you've got a choice. You can either choose not to have kids at all or to adopt, or if you are going to have children, you can actually choose the level of pain sensitivity of your future kid. Now, most parents...
All right, so again, they're just absolute nonsense, right? I mean, that isn't on the genetic table anywhere close to tomorrow or a week from now or 2 weeks from now. So, no, babble. Just fucking babble. Pain in any rational way, I mean, it's just babble.
Will not want to have a child without any capacity to feel physical pain at all, which is indeed dangerous. But nonetheless, it's possible to choose one of the benign alleles of SCN9A, such that your child is, let's say, in the 0.1% genetic outliers. If you've ever met the kind of person who's...
So again, and this would be productive how? This isn't even an intelligent argument, right? He's not like transhumanly intelligent. He's saying that somehow he can alter the perspective in which you feel pain with a genetic allele, and you can't. I mean, is there any evidence that this less pain comes with more pleasure? No. Maybe these are relative declines that mean absolutely nothing. And again, I don't even want to even speculate on what kind of pitifully poor science this is based on in terms of sticking a needle in somebody's hand and saying, "Do you think that's a 6 or a 5?" I just wonder how they even measure this quality. Do you? I mean, they ask him a question like that. I think it's an intelligence test, actually. So probably it's how the questions were answered has more to do, what kind of idiot answered them. So this gene might have more to do with intelligence than has to do with pain sensitivity. And the idiots didn't know how to, do 10 right. They thought 8 was more than 4.
It's just a useful signaling mechanism.
Well, I mean, the other way around. 4 was more than 8.
And so on. They still have the function of nociception, but pain is relatively negligible for them. Now, psychological pain is more complicated, but even here one can point to particular genes and variations, such as if you choose them, you are...
Right, the fear gene. This is just so this is eugenics crap. I mean, this isn't even transhumanism. This is just, let's select ourselves into a new kind of organism that's even more capable of being nihilistic and insensitive. Let's make ourselves more insensitive. Won't that make us special? No, I don't think so. Make us fucking dangerous.
Massively loading the genetic dice in favour of your future children. Now, I'm aware there's a tension here between saying I don't think that you should be bringing more.
So yes, no, it's already stupid enough to be irresponsible enough to subject a child to all these common risks. This asshole suggesting that no, it would be a good idea if we played genetic roulette with children too. Let's fuck with their genetics and see what that does. Let's see what kind of Frankenstein we can make. Because he knows exactly how it's going to turn out, the experiment, right? He's just like Frankenstein. He's saying, oh, I'm going to do something so special. I'm going to make a special human, special superhuman. You know, the transhuman. I'm going to make some transhumans. And he thinks he's going to do that responsibly. He's going to mix these ingredients just right, and everything's going to turn out just right. No, it's exactly the same kind of irresponsibility. This is just as bad as the two dopey poor people whose family all died at 35. They got the worst genetics in the universe. They have the fat gene, the stupid gene, any kind of bad gene there is. What's the difference? This crap shooting.
Darwinian malware into the world that will suffer, and at the same time trying to bang the drum for this kind of biohappiness revolution. But as I said, it's important to consider not merely what is technically feasible, but also what is sociologically realistic. Because after all, Gautama Buddha...
So more nonsense, right? He doesn't think it's realistic that country populations can go into decline. He doesn't think that's possible, right? But he thinks this is all realistic.
1,500 years ago. Why didn't he tell his followers just stop having children? Probably because he just recognised that it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I feel...
So again, this not going to happen thing, when we made it happen all over the place by inventing condoms, birth control pills. Made it happen all over the place. It happens all over the place. I mean, it's happening all over the place. I don't hear any babies screaming in the background of this video. Do you hear any? No. Wow, it must be working somehow, the non-thing we're doing. It's amazing. I mean, it's just such an amazingly empty premise that he keeps arguing from. Somehow human beings can't go below 2.2. They can't go below that. It can't happen.
Comfortable being in both camps, because I think it's listeners may be disappointed to hear this, but I think it's unrealistic to think that everybody's going to adopt not breeding. So
everybody doesn't adopt not raping, but the fact is that we can make it really impractical to be a rapist, can't we? Yes, a lot of crimes we substantially reduce the number of events by having laws against it. So you don't think Mothers Against Drunk Driver is a nice illustration of a successful plan, that it works? You don't think that's what's demonstrated? I think it's clear it can be done. It's clear it's not beyond our capacity. And again, we're already winning. The number of drunks on the road, so to speak, is already in decline, except in the worst locations on earth.
To accept that there's going to be a certain amount of people that will, then you want them to have good lives. And I think we should strive for future people. And so, yeah, I think the exit...
All right, so they're not really striving for future victims. You want to stop the victims, you do the prevention thing. You want to perpetuate victims, you play these little word games and mamby-pamby nonsense, bibble-babble about how there's no way we could ever make that number go below 2.2. It can't possibly happen, when it's happening all over the world.
Existential risk stuff, in terms of quality of life, matters. And I think both the transhumanist and effective altruist movements work towards that.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
What is transhumanism?
Yeah, well, I think they're doing it exactly the wrong way, right? I mean, the idea is that we're high maintenance. That's what the problem. You know, we have to keep being fed. We have watched the Olympics, and then I want the double Olympics. You know, we have women with 2 breasts. I want women with 4 breasts. They actually do it in movies, right? They actually make movies doing exactly that. You know, they'll probably have someday, the 15 vagina woman or something. I mean, It's just so the obvious solution is to minimize our consumption, minimize our needs, make us more efficient, not make us more capable of raping and pillaging, not more capable of, chasing down batteries and ripping them open and stealing their stuff. No, the simple solution is to make us low maintenance, make us undemanding, require very little. No, that's not what these guys are taking. These guys are going for I need 15-dimensional TV. I need, the screen has to be too big for my eyes to even look at the screen at one time. So I need a screen that's I need to turn my head all the way around so I can watch my 360-degree vision. So yes, I need a new thing where my head can actually spin, so I need a neck axis device so I can actually spin my head around so I can watch my 360 TV. I mean, this argument is inanely trivial as a philosophy. It's just so bad. It doesn't get the point at all. All right, so that's probably enough. And such. But it is funny. What calls itself anti-natalist is what? Again, that's why I had to call myself an atheist, an atheist in the first place, is just to get myself stepped somewhere away from the fact that I'm not in some club that does that kind of stuff. If that's a club ritual to talk that kind of rubbish, it's not a club I can belong to. So, whatever. Counter arguments made, and I just what's the there's nothing. They're freaking so stupid. I mean, what can I say? It's ABC 2.2. Yes, we've done it. Conversation really over. There is no futility. Prevention can work. It can be done, and it can be accomplished without some horrible, awful, terrible thing. You can have a nice democratic resolution where we all decide that, we'll bite the bullet for the future. No big deal. Yeah, we understand the problem, so yes, we'll accept a little tiny bit of inconvenience to save millions of victims. Yes, because we're such heroes. No, because it's not asking anything. It's trivial compared to what you're sparing the universe. Oh, it's like there's a sewage valve, right? There's this lake of sewage and it's flooding everybody's home. And somebody has to just stick their hand in this, it's dirty toilet water. I have to stick my hand in it and turn the valve off. Oh, what a sacrifice. Oh, what a brave hero. Come on. This is such a trivial conversation about what will have to be endured by the human beings who are the last human beings on earth. Oh, they're going to have it so difficult, and so they have to sacrifice so much. What a pile of crap. They're all going to be slaughtered and massacred, and they're going to be forced to I don't know, eat their Twinkies with their guts tied to the refrigerator or something. I mean, what are you talking about? No. Anyway, so they can't make an argument without just lying, this straw man crap. It's not straw man, it's shit man. They're just making shit men and saying, there's their philosophy. See, it's made out of shit. And they're the ones full of it. That's why they can make shit men. It's because they're full of shit. All right. Enough commentary. Till the next time and such, when I will continue to report on what fake smart people say, because that's what it comes down to. Because you just can't be this. Oh, I made a mistake. I didn't realize that the number was 2.2, and you just had to go below 2.2, and you're in extinction. Oh, I didn't realize. Yeah, bull fucking shit. You didn't. You're just a religious kook who wants to see the truth. No, you want to create. If we don't have God, we can't be moral. We can't figure out it's not good to rape people and stuff. When the Bible advocates rape, actually. It's the road to marriage in the Bible. You want to marry a girl? Rape her. You win. She's yours for life. It's just the ironies here. They are just so thick. the ironicness that we have to. That's a transhuman feature we might need, is to have big giant like fin things so we can swim through the irony, because the air is so thick with fucking preposterous ira fucking knee.